The Korean boss invited her for New Year's, but Yuna never imagined what awaited her on the other side of that door. Yuna's hands trembled as she stared at the crimson envelope resting on her desk. The paper was unmistakably expensive, handmade, thick, edged with gold leaf that traced delicate patterns resembling cherry blossoms, or something far more ominous. Flames, perhaps, or blood drifting through water. She already knew who it was from. She had known the moment her assistant placed it down without a word, eyes carefully avoiding hers. Inside, written in elegant Hangul calligraphy, was an invitation she never expected to receive. You are cordially invited to welcome the new year at the residence of Kang Min-jun. Your presence would honor this humble gathering. December 31st, 8 p.m. Traditional attire requested. Kang Min-jun. The name carried weight. Spoken in whispers across Seoul's boardrooms and back alleys alike. CEO by title. Kingmaker by reputation. And something far darker beneath the tailored suits and measured smiles. Yuna swallowed. This wasn't a public gala. It wasn't a business dinner. It was his home, on the most dangerous night of the year. New Year's Eve, when endings were decided and futures were claimed. Her phone vibrated. One message. No sender name. Do not refuse. A chill slid down her spine. Outside her window, Seoul glittered with countdown lights and fall celebrations, unaware that one invitation, one night, was about to unravel everything she thought she knew about power, loyalty, and desire. Yuna folded the letter slowly. Because when Kang Min-jun invited you into his world on New Year's Eve, you didn't decline. You survived or you didn't. Yuna had worked as a translator for Kang Min-jun's import-export business for exactly 7 months. She knew what the business really was. Everyone knew. The Kang family controlled half of Seoul's underground operations, and Min-jun, at 35, had inherited his father's empire 3 years ago and expanded it with ruthless efficiency and, surprisingly, a strict code of honor that had earned him grudging respect even from his enemies. She'd been hired because she was the best. Fluent in Korean, English, Japanese, and Mandarin, with a gift for reading between the lines of conversations where every word carried weight. But she'd maintained professional distance, never attending the private dinners, never accepting gifts beyond her generous salary, never allowing herself to notice the way Min-jun's dark eyes seemed to follow her during meetings, or how his voice softened almost imperceptibly when he addressed her. "You're being ridiculous," her roommate Ji-hai said that evening, watching Yuna try on her third hanbok. "He invites you to his home for New Year's, and you think it's just professional courtesy? He probably invited everyone." Yuna insisted, adjusting the geography. The silk was deep blue, traditional yet elegant, and it made her feel both beautiful and terrified. "Did he invite me? Did he invite anyone else from the office?" Ji-hai raised an eyebrow. "Yuna, the most powerful man in Seoul's underground sent you a personal invitation, in calligraphy, requesting your presence at his private residence. Connect the dots." Yuna's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd spent 7 months convincing herself that the electricity she felt during their interactions was one-sided, that the lingering glances meant nothing, that when his hand had brushed hers while passing documents, the way time seemed to stop was just her imagination. "I can't," she whispered. "His world. Ji-hai, people die in his world. I've translated the coded messages. I know what he's capable of." Ji-hai's expression softened. "I've seen how you look at him, too. And more importantly, I've seen how he looks at you, like you're the only real thing in a world of shadows." She squeezed Yuna's hand. "Maybe that's exactly why he invited you. Maybe he wants one night where he can just be human." Part 2. Crossing the Threshold. The Kang residence sat in Songbuk-dong, Seoul's most exclusive neighborhood, hidden behind high walls and ancient trees. Yuna's taxi driver became noticeably nervous as they approached, recognizing the address. "Miss, are you sure?" "I'm expected," she said, with more confidence than she felt. The gates opened silently. The house itself was a masterpiece of traditional Korean architecture blended with modern luxury, a Hanok estate with sweeping roof lines, warm wooden beams, and paper screen windows glowing softly in the winter darkness. Snow had begun to fall, dusting everything in white, and the scene looked like something from a painting. A woman in her 60s, elegant and sharp-eyed, greeted Yuna at the entrance. Miss Yuna, I am Mrs. Kwan, the house manager. Sajangnim is in the main hall. Please follow me. Yuna's heels clicked softly on the heated stone floors as they walked through corridors adorned with contemporary art and antique ceramics. She could hear the soft murmur of conversation ahead, and her anxiety spiked. Maybe there were other guests. Maybe this was professional after all. But when Mrs. Kwan slid open the doors of the main hall, Yuna's breath caught. The room was empty except for one person. Min Jun stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a snow-covered garden, wearing a traditional hanbok in charcoal gray and deep burgundy. The formal attire suited him perfectly, emphasized his tall frame and broad shoulders. He turned at the sound of the doors, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other. "You came," he said softly, and there was genuine relief in his voice. "You invited me," Yuna replied, her voice steadier than she expected, though I notice I seem to be the only guest. A slight smile touched his lips. "You're the only guest I wanted." The doors closed behind her with a whisper. They were alone. Min Jun crossed the space between them, stopping at a respectful distance. "I apologize for the deception. If I had been honest about my intentions, would you have come?" Yuna's heart raced. "What are your intentions?" "To have dinner with you. To talk with you, without business pretense. To welcome the new year in the company of someone who—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Someone who makes me remember what it feels like to be simply a man, not a position, or a legacy, or a weapon." The vulnerability in his voice stunned her. This was a man who commanded empires with a word, who could end lives with a gesture, and he stood before her almost nervous, waiting for her response. "I almost didn't come," Yuna admitted. "I was afraid. Of me? Of this? Of what it might mean?" She met his eyes. "Your world is dangerous," Minjunas's eye. "It is," he agreed, "which is why I've kept my distance from you for 7 months. Even though every day I wanted nothing more than to find a reason to call you into my office just to hear your voice. Even though I memorize the way you take your coffee, the books you read during lunch breaks, the way you unconsciously tuck your hair behind your ear when you're concentrating." He took a breath. "But tonight is the last night of the year, a night for endings and beginnings, and I'm tired pretending I don't feel what I feel." Yuna's breath shattered. "What do you feel?" He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes, smell his subtle cologne, something woody and clean. "Like I've been living in winter, and you're the first day of spring." Part 3. The dinner. The meal was extraordinary. Course after course of beautifully prepared Korean dishes, served in the intimate dining room. But Yuna barely tasted the food. She was intoxicated by something far more potent. Min Jun's complete attention. Away from the office, from the weight of his responsibilities, he was different, still commanding, still intense, but with a warmth and humor she'd only glimpsed before. He told her about growing up in this house, about his mother who had died when he was 12, about the burden of inheriting a legacy he never asked for. "My father gave me 2 choices," he said, refilling her wine glass. "Take control of the family business or watch it tear itself apart in a succession war that would have killed dozens of people, including my younger sister." He smiled sadly. "Not much of a choice." "Do you regret it?" Yuna asked softly. He considered this. "I regret the things I've had to do, the moral compromises, the violence, even when it was necessary. But I've tried to run things differently than my father did. Minimize civilian casualties. Protect the vulnerable. Enforce codes of conduct." He looked at her. "Does that make me less a monster?" "You're not a monster," Yuna said firmly. "A monster wouldn't question himself, wouldn't care about the cost of his choices." "You see me more clearly than I see myself," he said quietly. "You always have. In meetings, I watch you listen, really listen. You hear not just what people say, but what they mean, what they fear, what they want. It's extraordinary." Yuna felt heat rise to her cheeks. "It's just my job." "No." His hand moved across the table, stopping just shy of touching hers. "It's who you are. You see people. You saw me, even when I was trying very hard to be invisible to you. You're impossible to be invisible to, she whispered. His hand covered hers then, warm and strong. The contact sent electricity racing up her arm. Yuna, I need you to understand something. If you walk out that door tonight and tell me this was just dinner, I'll respect that. You'll keep your position, your salary, everything. There will be no consequences, no awkwardness. I would never use my position to... Min-June. She turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his. Stop talking. He fell silent, his eyes searching hers. I'm here, she said simply. I came knowing it would mean something, knowing it would change things. And I came anyway because... She took a breath. Because for 7 months, I've been trying not to fall for you, and I failed spectacularly. Because you scare me and intrigue me and make me feel alive in a way I never have before. Because when you walk into a room, everything else fades away. The intensity in his gaze made her feel like she was burning and freezing simultaneously. Say that again. Which part? The part where you've fallen for me. She smiled despite her racing heart. I'm falling for you, Kong Min-June, terrifying crime boss, secret softy, and the most impelling man I've ever met. He stood, drawing her up with him, and suddenly they were standing close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet his eyes. His free hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. I'm going to kiss you now, he said quietly. If you don't want that... She rose on her toes and closed the distance. The kiss started soft, tentative, both of them afraid to break the spell. But then his arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him, and she threaded her fingers through his hair, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Min-June pressed his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. Not just tonight. Stay in my life. Let me try to be worthy of you. You already are, she said, meaning it. But yes, I'll stay. Part 4, midnight. They moved to the garden pavilion, where outdoor heaters kept the cold at bay and the snow continued to fall in soft, perfect flakes. Min-June had brought out tea and rice cakes, and they sat close together on a heated bench, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against him. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Yuna said. He was quiet for a moment. When I was 25, before my father died, I almost left. I had admission to law school in the United States, a scholarship, a chance at a normal life. He paused. I got as far as the airport before I turned back. I told myself it was duty, responsibility. But the truth is, I was afraid that without this, without the family, the organization, the power, I'd be nothing, that I wouldn't know who I was. Yuna tilted her head to look at him. And now I'm starting to think maybe I could find out, with the right person beside me. He brushed a snowflake from her hair. Your turn. Tell me something. I was engaged once, she said, 3 years ago, to a kind, stable, perfectly nice man who loved me very much. Min-June's arm tightened slightly around her. What happened? I realized that perfectly nice was enough. That I wanted someone who challenged me, who matched me, who made me feel like I was fully alive. She looked up at him. I broke his heart, and I felt guilty about it ever since. Until tonight, when I realized I was right to wait, that there was someone worth waiting for. He kissed her temple. He was a fool to let you go. I didn't give him much choice. She smiled. I'm very stubborn. I've noticed. It's one of my favorite things about you. He checked his watch. Almost midnight. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of Seoul preparing for the new year. Firecrackers, music, the buzz of millions of people counting down together. But in their private garden, it was just the two of them in the falling snow. What's your New Year's resolution? Yuna asked. Min-June turned to face her fully, both hands cupping her face now. To be honest, with you, with myself. To stop pretending I can do this alone. To let someone in, even though it terrifies me. His thumb stroked her cheeks. To try to deserve the gift I've been given tonight. Tears pricked Yuna's eyes. And what gift is that? You, choosing me, seeing me and choosing me anyway. Somewhere in the city, the countdown began. They could hear it faintly. My resolution, Yuna said, is to be brave, to stop playing it safe, to say yes to the most dangerous, exciting, terrifying thing I've ever wanted. And what's that? He asked, though his smile said he knew. You, she whispered. They said together, and then he was kissing her again, deep and slow and full of promise, as fireworks exploded across Seoul's sky, and the new year arrived with all its possibilities. When they finally broke apart, Min-jun rested his forehead against hers, both of them smiling like fools. I should warn you, he said. I'm going to fall completely, irrevocably in love with you, probably already halfway there. Only halfway? She teased. I'll have to work harder. He laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and joyful, and the sound was better than any firework. Come on, let's go inside before we freeze. But as they stood, Yuna caught his hand. Min-jun, one more thing. Anything. I know your world is complicated, dangerous. I'm choosing this with my eyes open, but I need you to promise me something. His expression became serious. Name it. Promise me you'll let me help carry the weight, that you won't try to protect me by shutting me out. I'm stronger than I look, and I'm choosing all of you, the power, the danger, the complications. Partnership, not protection. He studied her face for a long moment, and she saw the exact moment he truly understood what she was offering. Not naive romance, but something more profound. Solidarity, partnership, the willingness to stand beside him in the darkness as well as the light. I promise, he said solemnly, though I reserve the right to worry about you constantly. I can live with that. She smiled. As long as you accept that I'll worry about you too. Deal. He kissed her hand. Now come inside. I want to start the new year properly. With you curled up next to me, probably arguing about something, driving me crazy in the best possible way. Epilogue. The first day. Yuna woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the warm weight of an arm around her waist. For a moment, she was disoriented. Then memory flooded back. The dinner, the confessions, the kiss at midnight, and then in the early hours of the new year, moving to Min-jun's private rooms, talking until dawn, finally falling asleep tangled together on his couch, too wrapped up in each other to bother with separate rooms. Nothing inappropriate had happened. They both wanted to take things slow, to savor each moment, but somehow this felt more intimate than if it had. The trust of falling asleep together, the vulnerability of morning light. She turned carefully to find Min-jun already awake, watching her with soft eyes. Morning, he murmured, brushing hair from her face. Sleep well. Better than I have in months. She smiled. You? Best night of my life, he said, simply, and it's about to get better. Oh, he grinned. Mrs. Kwan makes the best breakfast in Seoul. And I get to introduce you as my girlfriend, which I've been fantasizing about for approximately 7 months. Yuna laughed, her heart full to bursting. Girlfriend seems inadequate. I feel like we should have a more dramatic title. The woman who stole the crime boss's heart. Seoul's most dangerous romance. How about the love of my life? He suggested, completely serious now. Because I think that's what you're going to be. She pulled him down for a kiss. I think I can live with that title. As they made their way to breakfast, hand in hand, Yuna thought about the previous night, the red envelope that had started everything, the courage it had taken to walk through those gates. She'd expected many things, intimidation, maybe danger, possibly rejection. She hadn't expected to find home. She hadn't expected to find him, not the crime boss, not the legend, but the man beneath it all, the one who was learning, like her, what it meant to let someone in completely. What are you thinking? Min-jun asked as they entered the breakfast room. Yuna squeezed his hand. That I didn't expect this. Any of this. But I'm so glad I came. He raised her hand to his lips. So am I? First day of forever. First day of forever, she agreed. And as Mrs. Kwan beamed at them knowingly and the winter sun painted everything gold, Yuna knew that sometimes the most dangerous choice was the right one. Sometimes you had to step into the unknown, accept a crimson envelope, cross the threshold into a new world. Sometimes you had to risk everything for the chance at something extraordinary. And as Min June pulled out her chair and leaned down to whisper, "I love you," for first time, Yuna knew without a doubt that she'd made the right choice. The new year had begun, and so had their story. The end. Word count, approximately 3,800 words. I've created a romantic story about Yuna, a translator, and Min June, a Korean crime boss, who invites her to his home for New Year's Eve. The story focuses on emotional intimacy, vulnerability, and the development of genuine connection rather than physical content, keeping it appropriate while building romantic tension through meaningful conversations and heartfelt confessions. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Chapter 5, The Morning After. The breakfast room was flooded with golden morning light, and Mrs. Kwan had outdone herself. The table was laden with traditional New Year's dishes: tekguk, rice cake soup, John, savory pancakes, japchae glass noodles, and an array of banchan that looked almost too beautiful to eat. "Miss Yuna," Mrs. Kwan said warmly, though her eyes sparkled with knowing amusement. "It's wonderful to finally have you join us for a meal. Sajangnim has spoken of you often." "Has he?" Yuna glanced at Min June, who had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. "Mrs. Kwan, you're betraying my confidences," he said mildly, but there was affection in his voice. "Someone needs to," the older woman replied tartly. "You've been moping around this house for months, sighing over your translator like a schoolboy. I'm simply glad you finally did something about it." Yuna couldn't help but laugh at the image. Moping? Sighing? She exaggerates, Min June protested, though his ears had gone slightly red. "I do not. Just last week, you asked me 3 times if Miss Yuna had any food allergies, just in case she ever came for dinner, as if you weren't planning this entire evening." Mrs. Kwan patted Yuna's shoulder. "I'll leave you two to eat. But Miss Yuna, you're good for him. I haven't seen him smile like this since his mother was alive." After she left, Yuna reached across the table to take Min June's hand. "She really cares about you. She raised me after my mother died. My father was not equipped for single parenthood." Mrs. Kwan stepped in. He squeezed her fingers. "She's one of the few people whose opinion truly matters to me. The fact that she approves of you means everything. I like her too." Yuna smiled. "Though I'm going to need all the embarrassing stories about you that she's willing to share." "Absolutely not. That's classified information. I'm a translator. I'm very good at extracting information." He laughed, and the sound still made her heart skip. "I'm sure you are. Now eat before everything gets cold. Trust me, you don't want to miss Mrs. Kwan's tekguk." As they ate, falling into easy conversation, Yuna marveled at how natural this felt. She'd worried that morning would bring awkwardness or regret, but instead, there was only a sense of rightness, as if this was exactly where she was meant to be. "What happens now?" she asked eventually, setting down her chopsticks. "With work, I mean, we can't exactly keep this a secret." Min June's expression grew more serious. "No, we can't, and I won't ask you to. But I need you to understand what being with me publicly will mean." He paused. "There will be scrutiny, judgment. Some people will see you as a weakness, a target. Others will assume you're using me for money or status. And there are rival organizations that might try to use you to get to me." Yuna's stomach tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "I thought about all of that before I came last night. I'm not naive, Min June. I know what I'm stepping into. Knowing and experiencing are different things," he said gently. "I have security measures, of course. Bodyguards, surveillance systems, safe houses. But your life will change. Your freedom will be limited. I need you to be absolutely certain." "I'm certain." She met his eyes. "Are you?" "Because I'm not the one with more to lose here. You're the one whose enemies might see emotion as weakness. I'm just a translator. You're the one running an empire." He was quiet for a moment, then rose and came around the table, kneeling beside her chair, so they were eye level. "Listen to me carefully. You are not just anything. You are the most precious thing in my world now, which, yes, makes you a potential target, but also makes you the most protected person in Seoul. He took both her hands. As for showing emotion being a weakness, maybe it is in my world, but I'm tired of living in a world where caring about someone is seen as a liability. I'd rather be weak with you than strong without you. Yuna felt tears prick her eyes. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I have 7 months of romantic things saved up, he said with a slight smile. You're going to be insufferable by the end of the week. She laughed through her tears. I can't wait. Chapter 6. The First Test. The first real challenge came 3 days later. When Yuna returned to the office, she'd expected whispers, curious glances. What she hadn't expected was a cold shoulder from several colleagues who'd previously been friendly, or the outright hostility from a few of the senior managers. Sleeping your way to the top? Park Ji-woo muttered as she passed his desk. Very professional. Yuna stopped, her hands clenching. But before she could respond, Min Jun's voice cut through the office like a blade. Mr. Park. My office. Now. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Ji-woo paled, but he stood and followed Min Jun, who hadn't even looked at Yuna. A deliberate choice, she realized. He was handling this as the boss, not the boyfriend. They were in there for 15 minutes. When Ji-woo emerged, he looked shaken and headed straight to Yuna's desk. I apologize, he said stiffly. That was inappropriate and unprofessional. It won't happen again. Thank you, Yuna said quietly, though she noticed he couldn't quite meet her eyes. After he left, her desk phone rang. Min Jun, can you come to my office, please? And bring the translation files for the Busan contract. Professional, proper. But when she entered his office and closed the door, she found him standing by the window, tension evident in every line of his body. Are you all right? He asked without turning. I'm fine. What did you say to him? That if he ever spoke to or about you with disrespect again, he'd be looking for new employment, and that his comments reflected poorly on his own professionalism, since you've never received preferential treatment in work assignments, salary, or promotions. Now he turned. I also told him that my personal life is exactly that, personal, and that speculating about it is grounds for termination. Yuna set the files on his desk. You can't fire everyone who has an opinion about us. Watch me, he said darkly. Min Jun. She crossed to him, keeping her voice low even though the office was soundproofed. I appreciate you defending me, but I need to handle some of this myself, or I'll never have credibility here. People need to see that I can stand on my own. He studied her face. You're right. I'm sorry. Seeing someone disrespect you like that made you want to throw him out a window? At minimum. She smiled. I love that you want to protect me, but I also need you to trust that I can fight some of my own battles. Okay. He pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. Okay, but I reserve the right to intervene if anyone crosses a line. Agreed. She breathed in assent, letting herself take comfort from his presence for just a moment before stepping back. Now, about this Busan contract. They spend the next hour working, falling into their familiar professional rhythm. And Yuna realized that this, being able to be both partners and colleagues, lovers and professionals, was going to be the key to making this work. Chapter 7. Meeting the family. 2 weeks later, Min Jun told her it was time to meet his sister. So-yeon has been threatening to show up at my house unannounced if I don't introduce you soon, he said over dinner at a private restaurant. Fair warning. She's going to interrogate you mercilessly. She takes her role as protective little sister very seriously. How old is she? 28. She's a surgeon at Seoul National University Hospital. Brilliant, compassionate, and completely terrifying when she wants to be. Yuna raised an eyebrow. The feared crime boss is afraid of his little sister? Absolutely. She's the only person who can make me feel like I'm 12 years old again. He smiled fondly. She's also the only family I have left. Her opinion matters. They met at a quiet cafe in Gangnam. Kong So-yeon arrived in scrubs, having come straight from his shift, and Yuna immediately understood Min Jun's apprehension. His sister had the same intense eyes, the same commanding presence, But where Min-jun had learned to mask his emotions, Seo-yun wore hers openly. "So you're the one who's finally cracked my brother's Ice King facade," Seo-yun said, shaking Yuna's hand with a grip that was just shy of painful. "I prefer to think I melted it," Yuna replied, and was rewarded with a surprised laugh. "I like her already," So-yun told Min-jun, who was watching the interaction with poorly concealed anxiety. "You can relax. Appa, I'm not going to scare her away." Yet, Yuna added, and Seo-yun laughed again. Over coffee and pastries, Seo-yun asked pointed questions about Yuna's family, her education, her intentions, her understanding of what being with Min-jun meant. But there was warmth beneath the interrogation, a genuine desire to understand rather than judge. "Can I ask you something personal?" Yuna said eventually. "Please do. Are you okay with what your brother does? With the family business?" Seo-yun's expression grew somber. "You mean, am I okay with the fact that he runs a criminal organization?" She stirred her coffee slowly. "No. I hate it. I hate what it's done to him. The burdens it's placed on him. The danger it puts him in. But I also understand why he does it. When our father died, the alternative was chaos. A power vacuum that would have gotten dozens of people killed, including probably me. So Min-jun stepped up, because that's what he does. He protects people." She looked at her brother with fierce affection. "He's tried to make it better, more ethical, if that's even possible in that world. He doesn't deal in drugs or human trafficking. He protects the neighborhood businesses from other gangs. He's created jobs, funded schools, helped people who had nowhere else to turn." She turned back to Yuna. "Does that make it right? I don't know, but it makes him someone I'm proud to call my brother." Min-jun looked uncomfortable. "Seo-yun, are you okay with what your brother does? With the family business?" Seo-yun's expression grew somber. "You mean, am I okay with the fact that he runs a criminal organization?" She stirred her coffee slowly. "No. I hate it. I hate what it's done to him. The burdens it's placed on him. The danger it puts him in. But I also understand why he does it. When our father died, the alternative was chaos. A power vacuum that would have gotten dozens of people killed, including probably me. So Min-jun stepped up, because that's what he does. He protects people." She looked at her brother with fierce affection. "He's tried to make it better, more ethical, if that's even possible in that world. He doesn't deal in drugs or human trafficking. He protects the neighborhood businesses from other gangs. He's created jobs, funded schools, helped people who had nowhere else to turn." She turned back to Yuna. "Does that make it right? I don't know, but it makes him someone I'm proud to call my brother." Min-jun looked uncomfortable. "Seo-yun, let me finish." She reached across the table to take both their hands. "Yuna, my brother has been alone for so long, isolated by his position, his responsibilities, his reputation. I've watched him carry the weight of our family legacy without complaint, without asking for help, without letting anyone close. And then you came along, and suddenly he's smiling again, laughing. He called me at midnight on New Year's just to tell me he was happy. Do you know how long it's been since I've heard him say that word?" Tears glistened in her eyes. "So am I okay with what he does? No. But am I grateful that he's found someone who sees past all of that to the man underneath? Who makes him remember he's human? Absolutely. Welcome to the family. Yuna. And please, for the love of God, convince him to take a vacation sometime. He hasn't had a day off in 3 years." Yuna felt her own eyes well up. "I'll do my best." Later, as Min-jun walked Yuna to her car, he was quieter than usual. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I'm not sure I deserve that," he said quietly. "What Seo-yun said about me. I've done things, made choices that you made to protect people." Yuna interrupted. "Min-jun, I'm not going to pretend you're a saint, but I've seen how you operate. I've translated your orders, your negotiations. You have a code. You try to minimize harm. That matters." He pulled her close. "How did I get so lucky?" "I asked myself the same question," she murmured against his chest. "Though I'm still working on that vacation suggestion. Where would notorious Kong Min-jun even go on vacation?" "Anywhere you want," he said simply. "I'd follow you anywhere." Chapter 8, The Threat. The threat came on a rainy Tuesday in February. Yuna was leaving work late, having stayed to finish a complex translation. Min-jun was in Busan for meetings and had offered to send his driver, but she'd insisted she was fine taking a taxi. She wanted to maintain some independence, some normalcy. She was halfway to the parking garage when she noticed a man following her. Her heart rate spiked, but she kept walking, pulling out her phone. Min-jun had given her an emergency contact, his head of security, a former Special Forces operative named Dae-young. She pulled up the number, finger hovering over the call button. Miss Yuna. The voice came from behind her, making her jump. She spun to find a man in his 40s, expensive suit, cold eyes. "I'd like a moment of your time." "I don't know you," she said, proud that her voice was steady. "No, but I know you. You're Kong Min-jun's woman, which makes you very interesting to me." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm Yang Tae-won. Perhaps your boyfriend has mentioned me." Yuna's blood ran cold. She'd translated enough conversations to know that name. Yang Tae-won ran the Dong Demon territory and had been trying to expand into Min-jun's areas for months. The two organizations were close to open war. "I have nothing to say to you," she said, starting to walk away. "Not even if I have information that could save his life?" Yang called after her. She stopped to spite herself. "What are you talking about?" "There's going to be a hit. Soon. Someone in his own organization is planning to take him out." Yang stepped closer, and Yuna fought the urge to run. "I could tell you who. All you'd have to do is convince Min-jun to have coffee with me. Neutral ground. Just a conversation." "You're lying." "Am I? Ask yourself why I'd approach you instead of him directly. Because he won't listen to me, but he might listen to you. And because I have no interest in seeing Min-jun dead. At least, not until after we've had a chance to negotiate territory. His death right now would be bad for everyone's business." Yuna's mind raced. This could be a trap, a manipulation. But what if it wasn't? What if there really was a traitor, and she dismissed the warning? "I'll think about it," she said finally. "Don't think too long. The hit's scheduled for this weekend." Yang handed her a business card. "Call me, or don't, and wonder if you could have saved him." Then he was gone, disappearing into the rain, and Yuna was left shaking, the card burning in her hand. She called Dae-young immediately. Within 10 minutes, she was in a secure car heading to a safe house, with 2 bodyguards she'd never seen before flanking her. Within 20 minutes, Min-jun was on the phone, his voice tight with controlled fury. "Are you all right? Did he touch you?" "I'm fine. He just talked." She relayed the conversation word for word, her translator's memory for details serving her well. Min-jun was silent for a long moment. "Yang's playing a game. The question is what kind? What if he's telling the truth? About the traitor? Then I'll find him. But, Yuna, you can't meet with him. You can't call him. This is exactly the kind of leverage he wants. Access to you, the ability to manipulate you, to use you against me." "I know that," she said, frustrated. "I'm not stupid. Min-jun, I didn't agree to anything. I'm just telling you what he said." "I know. I'm sorry." She heard him take a breath. "I'm coming back to Seoul tonight. And from now on, you're going to have security. Professional, trained bodyguards. No arguments." "Min-jun, please." The word was raw. "I can't lose you. And Yang approaching you means you're already a target. So please, let me protect you properly." Yuna closed her eyes, thinking of her fierce defense of independence just weeks ago. But this was different. This was real danger, not abstract threat. "Okay," she said quietly. "But I get approval over who they are. I'm going to be spending a lot of time with them, and I need to be comfortable." "Agreed. Thank you." He paused. "Yuna, I love you. I should have said it more. I'll say it every day from now on." "I love you too," she whispered. "Come home safe." "I will. I promise." Chapter 9, The Confrontation. Min-jun arrived back in Seoul at 2 a.m. and came straight to the safe house. Yuna had been unable to sleep, pacing the secure apartment, replaying the encounter with Yang over and over. When the door opened and Min June walked in wet from the rain, exhausted but alert, she ran to him. He caught her, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe, his face buried in her hair. "I'm okay," she murmured. "I'm right here. I'm okay. I know. I know." But he didn't let go for a long time. Eventually, they sat on the couch, and Min June explained what he'd learned. Yang's information about a traitor was likely true. Min June's intelligence had already identified 2 potential suspects within his organization, men who'd been making unusual contacts with rival groups. But Yang's offer to help was certainly a trap of some kind. "He wants something," Min June said grimly. "Access to you, information from you, or to create division between us. Maybe all 3. So, what do we do?" "We..." "Nothing. You stay safe while I handle it." Yuna pulled back to look at him. "Min June, we talk about this. Partnership, remember? Not protection. This is different. This is active danger. Which is exactly why you need someone thinking clearly, not emotionally." She took his hands. "I'm not saying I should go meet Yang, but maybe there's a way to use his approach, to feed him false information or to set a trap of our own." Min June stared at her, and she could see the war in his eyes, the instinct to shield her fighting against the knowledge that she was right. "You're terrifying," he said finally. "You know that. I learn from the best." She smiled slightly. "Talk to me. Use me as a sounding board like you would any strategic advisor. Let me help think through this." So they talked, deep into the night, mapping out scenarios and contingencies. Yuna's outsider perspective, seeing the situation without the emotional weight of loyalty and betrayal that Min June carried, allowed her to spot patterns and possibilities he'd missed. By dawn, they had a plan. It was risky, but it might work. "If this goes wrong," Min June started. "It won't. But if it does, we handle it together. That's what we do now, remember?" He kissed her, soft and lingering. "How did I ever manage without you?" "Not nearly as well," she said with mock arrogance, and was rewarded with his laugh. Chapter 10, The Resolution. The plan unfolded over the next 3 days. First, Min June quietly moved his 2 suspects to positions where they could do limited damage. One sent to oversee a warehouse operation, the other assigned to routine financial audits. Then, through carefully chosen intermediaries, he let slip false information about his schedule, his security arrangements, his upcoming meetings. Meanwhile, Yuna did call Yang, but with Dae-young monitoring the call from a secure phone that couldn't be traced. "I'll talk to him," she told Yang. "But I need more information first." "Who's the traitor?" Yang laughed. "Tell Min June to meet with me, and I'll tell him personally. And Miss Yin? Tick-tock. Time's running out." "Give me until Friday," she said, following the script she and Min June had prepared. "He's been busy. I need time to convince him." "Friday then. I'll be waiting for your call." They hung up, and Yuna looked at Dae-young. "Do you think he bought it?" "He bought that you're concerned and potentially desperate enough to push Min June into a meeting, which is exactly what we want him to think." Friday came. That morning, Min June's intelligence team reported that both suspects had made contact with outside parties. One had met with known associate of Yang's. The other had been caught trying to access secure files about Min June's upcoming schedule. "We have our traitors," Min June said during the emergency meeting in his office. "Arrest them. Standard protocol." But there was a second part to plan, one that only Min June, Dae-young, and Yuna knew about. That afternoon, Yuna called Yang. "He'll meet with you tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the Sichuan Lake Pavilion. Neutral ground, no weapons, 2 people each." "I knew you were smart," Yang said, satisfaction clear in his voice. "See you tomorrow, Miss Yun." But Min June wasn't going to meet Yang. Instead, they'd set up comprehensive surveillance around the meeting location and had informed the police. Through carefully maintained connections that didn't compromise Min June's organization, about Yang's movements and plans. When Yang arrived at the pavilion, the next day with an armed team hidden nearby, the police were waiting. They caught him and 4 of his men with illegal weapons and seized evidence linking him to multiple crimes. Meanwhile, Min June's organization had simultaneously raided Yang's headquarters. seizing territory and assets while Yang was distracted by his fake meeting. It was elegant, thorough, and completely legal from Min-jun's side. The police got a major arrest, Min-jun eliminated a threat, and Yuna was never in actual danger. When it was over, Min-jun came home to find Yuna pacing anxiously in his living room, having watched the news coverage. "Is it really over?" she asked. "For now. Yang will be in prison for a long time, and his organization is scattered. The traitors are handled." He pulled her close. "And you were brilliant. The way you played Yang, the way you thought through every angle. Yuna, you have an incredible strategic mind." "I was terrified the entire time," she admitted. "So was I. But we did it together, just like you said we would." She pulled back to look at him. "This is what it's going to be like, isn't it? Not all the time, but sometimes. Danger, strategy, walking the edge." "Yes," he said honestly. "I won't lie to you. This is my world. But I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe and to make sure you never have to do anything that compromises who you are." "I know." She took a breath. "And I'm still choosing this. Choosing you, even knowing what it means." "Then I'm the luckiest man alive." They stood there in the quiet of his home, holding each other, two people from different worlds who had somehow found a way to build something precious together. Outside, Seoul glittered with millions of lights. Somewhere, the complex machinery of both the legal and illegal worlds continued to turn. But in that moment, in each other's arms, they were simply Min-jun and Yuna, two people in love, choosing each other against all odds. And that, they both knew, was the most dangerous and beautiful thing of all.